Welcome back, friends, to episode 3. In the last episode, we built a villager's trading hall and also horse stables for the horses that we are actually going to collect in this episode. So I'm going to throw a picture up on the left-hand side of the screen here. Those are the 35 horse variants that we are trying to find. There are 7 colors with 5 different patterns on each color. So I live in a plains biome and I feel like it'll be fairly easy to find them, so let's get started. If I do find any other animals on the way by, like this chicken here and this pig, they're definitely coming back with me as I don't have those ones yet. And eventually we will create other areas for the other animals, but for the most part in this episode, we're absolutely just trying to find the horses and collect all 35 of them. So I started searching outwards and I went in different directions because we are in a plains biome, but the plains actually reach further and further out in different directions. I would actually say the biggest biomes that are near my villager base is plains biomes. So it's kind of helpful because, again, we are looking for a lot of horses all for one episode, and it's a bit much, but we're gonna see what we can find. So I headed out, and because there was already a few horses that had spawned into the villager area, I went ahead and just placed them into the stables already, and I'll show you those ones later. For the time being, I kept searching, and at first I wasn't finding a lot, which was kind of weird, but I did come across this really cool waterfall area that I would love to maybe do something with in the future. I think this would just be a really pretty scenic area to have for something later on, so I made note of it. But moving on after that, we kept looking around and we finally found a brown horse with spots. So I placed him on the fence line in this one village, and this was actually a horse that I found later on. The reason I'm showing it first is because I tamed him and I put a saddle on him to ride him back to the base, which was way smarter than what I was doing this entire episode. Don't ask me why. Logic was not with me for this entire week that I was making this episode. And yes, it took me a week because sometimes I would come in and there would be no horses in the game. And then other times I'd have to come back in and then all of a sudden there would be horses spawning in left and right. So it did take a little while to find all the horses that we needed. But in the beginning, I'd say at least the first half of the horses that I needed, I didn't think to tame them. So I was trying to lead them back to my villager base, which was taking forever. And of course it would, because it's hard to get them up over the hills. Why was I doing that? I don't know. I couldn't tell you. So it took forever, but anyways, I wised up and I started taming them and taking them back that way. It was so much easier. I don't know why I made things harder on myself, but I digress. Moving on, I kept searching other areas, and I did find one emerald while we were out, which was really cool, and then I went down into this valley, and it opens up into a large mountainous hillscape area. And I think maybe this area would actually be a cool spot to build a town into the sides of the hills. Tell me what you think in the comments below, but I am going to make a note of this as well. After that, I found another really cool pig, one of the new variants, and then I did find a cow and a horse and a warm variant pig. So I was taking them back to the villager base, but I ended up losing the cow. He fell down into this cave here. I tried to dig him out and I was able to grab him with the lead right as he fell further down, and I can't pull him out. So we went ahead and we left him, unfortunately. He's just going to have to be a cave dweller now, and maybe we'll see him in the future when we eventually explore that cave, but for the time being, he's just gonna have to stay there. After that, I also found some baby black horses that had spots, and then one that was just I think the plain one. So I brought them back. Can't ride them obviously because they're babies, but fortunately they were really, really close to the base. I also kept having to fight off mobs in the base because the whole thing isn't lit up yet. Once that was over, I went out, found some more horses, brought them back, decided to go ahead and pave the area around the stables just to make it look a little better, a little more used, and just, I don't know, a little more homely, like we actually use this area. Now at some point I am going to have to redo the stables due to the size. I don't think that 5 horses fit in each stable very well. It's a bit small and cramped. So I would eventually like to readjust the way we built it. but that'll come at a later date. I also found more horses that were in the villages, and so I went ahead and took them with us as well. That was just an easy find, basically. So we got a couple brown horses and another gray horse, which was great to add to our collection. Another dark brown horse to go into the stable, and I was having to lead them in and just attach the leads to the fences. I found out the really hard way that there was a few times I had taken the leads off the horses and left them in their area but had not tamed them, and they ended up despawning. So that was also my bad. I ended up having to go out and re-find those horses. And that's also what took me a long time to kind of find the rest of them, because I'd say at least 5 of them despawned before I realized. I was so upset. But afterwards, I found some more white horses and we got them back in there. And I think the white and the black were the horses that despawned the most as well. So it just took me an extra long time to eventually get all 5 of each of those 2 colors. But we did, and then I started taming them and placing saddles on each of them. At this point, whenever I came back to the base, I realized that I wasn't hearing my villagers very often, and they weren't very loud. I thought that was odd, as we had filled every single one of these with a villager, and each one had a job. And now that I'm opening them, majority of them are gone. So I'm going to assume that they have perished in some horrible way. And I climbed up top to see why, and it looks like I left some of these open, and so I had to go ahead and close it up so this guy wouldn't die too. This is going to be such a pain because now I'm going to have to rebreed them just to fill those areas again with jobs, and Lord knows that took me forever in the last episode. It took forever, but it's okay. After that, I decided to start going out on a horse and then finding the other horses that way. It took way less time. Again, don't know why I didn't do this to begin with, but I didn't. So I took one of my faster horses, found a couple more, led them back to the base, which was way easier as well. Came back, of course there were more mobs, and at some point I just went ahead and I let the skeleton take over. He did my job for me, and then I took him out. And once that was said and done, I went out again, grabbed a couple more horses that had despawned. As I was bringing them back, I kept searching around. It took a while, but I ended up finding another couple horses that I needed, and it looks like these are the ones that we have at this point in time, which is really nice. We're kind of chipping away at it. We still have a couple in each row that we need to get though. When I got back to the base though, a witch had spawned in during the day, which I thought was kind of odd, just in the middle of this area, and maybe that's normal, but I swear I've only ever seen witches at night or in caves. But she started throwing potions at me and all the animals around me, so I moved the horse and that did nothing. I don't know why I did that. I think I was afraid that maybe the llamas were spitting at each other or something, and then I realized that they had gotten hit too. So we're just gonna leave it alone. Afterwards, I ventured out again and ended up finding a jungle, which was really nice. And we're gonna go back to that jungle at some point, but for the time being, I found some parrots. Found this aqua-colored parrot, and we're gonna take him back with us. And then a few seconds later, I also ended up finding a really pretty dark blue parrot. So I took that one as well. And I would eventually like to revisit so I can get all the colored parrots. And then I also found out that apparently parrots are one of the animals in the game that you can't breed, which I do find kind of odd that you're not allowed to breed the parrots, but I do have a project that I would like to use a lot of parrots in. So we're gonna have to visit the jungle fairly often in the future and just take parrots home as we can. Once they were back in my base, I went out again, kept searching around, didn't find a whole lot, went into another biome with oak wood and found a couple of wolves. So I tamed one of them, and then the other one I couldn't quite tame because I only had 2 bones with me, so I just led them back to the villagers area as well. Like I said, we're just gonna keep collecting the animals as we go. This episode is mostly supposed to be about the horses, but I couldn't help myself. So I placed them on that fence line for now, and that's just where they're gonna stay for the time being. I'll eventually get them a spot set up too. But I went ahead and went to sleep, and the next day I ended up finding 3 black horses right in a row, all different patterns, and I did actually need one of them. So we brought him back, and then afterwards I decided I should start taming all the horses that aren't tamed, and then start adding saddles to all of the horses that need them. I went out to venture past another village that's near me, and I ended up finding this big kind of open area of water. As I was going through, I noticed straight ahead that there seems to be kind of like a cliff ravine area, which I did not check out this time around, but when I turned to the right, there's this massive hill, and then you just see this huge open round cave in the middle of the side. That is something that I would really like to check out as well, so I made note of it. And then when I turned back around, I kept going straight, and I realized that there's also a swamp biome right here, which is really cool because I've had this world a little bit longer than I've actually been creating videos for it, and I already explored some of the areas in the past, and this was not one of them. And I did find a swamp biome, but it was much further from my base than this one is, so I'm really excited that this is here. I'm not really sure how big it is. I didn't go very far into it. I stayed on the outskirts, and I mostly just wanted to see if there were any lily pads anywhere, because I think that would be fun to take back and then eventually create like a nice garden pond area. And I did end up finding some, and I think it's super great that you can just hit them with a bow and they pop up like that. They're super easy to grab. So that's what I did, and I think I grabbed like 7 or 8 of them. So I just ended up collecting all the ones that were right here and took them back with me. Afterwards, I went out exploring again, and I was just sort of messing around, and at this point I felt like I was down to the bare minimum of the horses that we needed. And unfortunately, if I move too quickly, it seems like they don't spawn in, and if I sort of just hang out a little bit, they spawn in. But at this point it seemed like they were just never going to spawn in. And I stood here for just a second, and all of a sudden something pink popped up in the corner, and I thought it was a pig. So I turned around to double check, and it was definitely a pink sheep. I thought that was awesome, so we went ahead and grabbed that one. He's gonna come back with us. I don't know what to name it yet, but maybe give me some suggestions in the comments. I will say there was another clip. I'm actually not sure that I was recording at the time, but I did find a second pink sheep later on. As I was crossing the river to get to it, it despawned, and I was so sad about that because I was like, we could have had 2 pink sheeps in one episode. I just thought that was so cool, even though it took me like a week to actually finish this video and finish making it, but still. After logging out for a bit and then logging back in, for some reason my settings reset back to the vibrant visuals, and this looks really strange to me. I don't hate it, but I feel like it looks hazy, almost like there's just a fire somewhere way off in the distance, and there's just this haze over everything, and I just don't really like that much. I also feel like when I start moving around and you see my shadow looks kind of glitchy when I run, and I also find that kind of odd. And I don't know if that's something that they just need to update at some point and kind of perfect and tweak in the future. But for now, I mean, it's interesting seeing everything. It's very saturated. I still feel like it just looks a bit too strange for me, and I kind of want to just stick with the old settings, and just for the time being at least. And if there's something that I can do on my end to fix that and you guys know how, please let me know. Otherwise, we're just gonna go back to the old settings. So I switched it back, and this is the end, guys. So I really want to show you all the ones that we got at this point. I still need to fix the stables. That's gonna happen in the future. We're not gonna do it now. They're not finished. I just needed the space enough just to get the 35 variants. So in this whole episode, we ended up with 2 armadillos, 1 pink sheep, a couple of trader llamas, the worm variant pig, a donkey, and then out of all the horses that we needed, we only got 34 out of 35. So we have the 5 white, the 5 dark gray. We do have 5 black horses. Yep, there's 5 there. And then the dark brown, we only have 4. So we are still missing 1 horse, and that horse happens to be the dark brown that has the dark black pattern all over it. We do have 5 of the dark reddish brown, and we do have 5 of the rusty colored brown, and 5 of the light brown. So 34 in total. Honestly, that's good enough for me for now. It took me so long to get all of this. I'm glad that it's finally done, and we will definitely keep an eye out in the future for that one last horse. But in the meantime, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Please like and subscribe, it really helps a lot. And if you're interested, go watch my other 2 videos. Bye!